I wonder what you think, Michael, about what do we do going forward? Because we've heard a lot of talk from policymakers, both in the administration and in Congress, about wanting to what success looks like and wanting to achieve success and denying Russia the ability to impose its will on Ukraine. But in hearing the report on the ground that we got from Jason Beaubien, it seems to me that the cost of doing that and the effort that's going to have to be made in order to achieve whatever success looks like from the United States and Western European point of view, that cost is going to be a lot more than people are prepared for. So what are your thoughts on where we go from here?
Yeah, I think it's scary, and that's part of why even though I just defended Biden for his clear delineation of what we should do in Ukraine and what we shouldn't, where I think he got it right, I think he got it wrong to sort of underestimate what this war could become as they started to see it becoming likely, if not inevitable, at the end of 2021, and frankly didn't do that much to try to stop it. Now, they didn't have that much power to stop it in one sense, because it was Putin's decision and Putin's war, and nothing can defend what Putin's done here. However, President Macron of France seemed to have the right instinct. He just didn't have a big enough country that he was representing to be able to change the dynamics fundamentally. But I thought you could have borrowed a page from John F. Kennedy in the Cuban Missile Crisis, had certain negotiations privately, certain negotiations publicly, and basically said to Putin, okay, you don't want Ukraine in NATO? Let's hear your better ideas. Or let's start a long process of both sides coming up with better ideas that will preserve Ukraine's sovereignty without it having to be part of either the West or the East, if you will. And in the meantime, we won't bring them into NATO, and you don't attack them either. And let's just talk. Let's just turn this into an extended diplomatic process. The Biden team did not really do that. They tended to say, if Putin attacks, there's nothing we can do about it. We're going to make sure the world knows it was his fault, and he's going to hang himself with his own petard. But in fact, he's now damaging much of the world with his horrible decision. And it's fundamentally, we should blame Putin, not the United States or the West. But I think we failed to anticipate just how ugly this could be. The CIA gets correct credit for having detected some plots against President Zelensky, for having seen some of what Putin was planning, for allowing Biden to telegraph to the world this is going to be Putin's decision. It's a war of aggression. But the CIA did not do a particularly good job at understanding how this war could get ugly and be long. In fact, most people, as a rule, intelligence agencies or not, tend to underappreciate the likelihood that war will go badly and worse than predicted, or at least not the way they anticipate prior to the bullets being shot. And so now we're in that protracted state, and you're right, we don't really know how we get out of it. I mean, one way is Putin wins, but none of us want that. And God bless the Ukrainians. I don't think Putin's going to win a clean, clear, decisive, overwhelming victory where he actually replaces the Zelensky government or takes half of Ukraine or achieves some other transformative effect like that. He is sitting on about 20% of Ukraine's land right now, of course, and maybe he'll decide that's enough and look for a way to establish a ceasefire. But President Zelensky just said he wouldn't tolerate such a ceasefire. And so I think until the Ukrainians get tired of the fight, I mean, they are tired in one sense, it's been so tragic for their country, but until they come to the conclusion that they can't retake much or most of their territory, they're going to want to see how they can use our high mobility artillery rocket systems and other strike platforms to maybe have a chance of going on the counteroffensive. So inevitably, that's going to have to play out. And so I think there's almost no way to see how this war could end or even reach a ceasefire in the course of the summer and early to mid-fall of 2022. The best case scenario is both sides start to conclude that they've achieved some gains. At least Ukraine's held onto its country, most of its territory, its capital city, its government. Maybe they win a little bit of land back. Maybe they start a diplomatic process that could schedule referenda for possibly getting other parts of it back someday. And that maybe becomes good enough for them. And then maybe for Russia, same thing, that as long as they know that Ukraine's not going to be in NATO, they can still hold on to some of the territory, at least for the moment. And most of all, they sent a clear message that the West cannot, bring Ukraine into its orbit, that Putin could claim a victory. That's about the best case. And even that is not attainable right now. So the worst case is, years of fighting, or also the possibility of ceasefires being created and then failing, and perhaps even preparing or giving an opportunity for each side to prepare, especially for Russia to prepare the next offensive, such that the ceasefire winds up serving the cause of war more than the cause of peace. So there are a lot of ways this can still go bad, not to mention escalation and direct risk of combat between NATO and Russia. And I don't rule that out completely either. I'm not suggesting anybody should go to bed tonight fearful for nuclear war, but at some point, if Putin decides he's losing, the fact that we're doing so much to help Ukraine has to really get under his skin. And he has to wonder if he can sort of take us to the brink of a risk of direct war to get us to either desist or to at least enter into a broad diplomatic process that gives him a chance of achieving some of his goals or solidifying some of his goals, codifying them in a way that he couldn't otherwise. So I'm nervous about all that stuff going forward. There's no easy answer for how this ends.